I had blocked this story from my memory until my girlfriend reminded me of it a couple days ago. I started dating my girlfriend at the end of my senior year, and before we started dating, I used multiple dating apps. In many of my dating app profiles, I had my Snapchat listed so people could add me. This is important. Nothing led to anything with the dating apps. I talked to people for a bit and eventually the conversations would die out. When I began dating my girlfriend, I had deleted the apps but never deleted my account, meaning people could still see my profile and my Snapchat in it. I realized this after a few people would add me, but it didn't go anywhere because I'd tell them that I had a girlfriend. As you would imagine, the conversation would usually end there. But there was this one guy that added me. Let's call him Adam. And he asked me if I was available. Being straight, I was used to guys adding me, so I gave him the usual response. Sorry, I have a girlfriend, and I'm straight. I expected him to leave me alone, but he didn't. At first, the messages were normal. How was your day? What did you do today? Simple stuff like that. Being the nice guy I am, I responded. I thought this guy just wanted to be friends, and having a gay friend is okay with me. Then the messages progressively got more creepy. He started asking a lot about my girlfriend, and not the basic questions. Questions like, do you guys have sex a lot? Does she like that you're good in bed? I only simply responded with, those are kind of personal questions, and I don't feel like it's right for me to share my dating business. Adam would always apologize and not talk to me for a few days. Then he would hit me up again and ask creepy questions again. I eventually told my girlfriend about the situation, and for those who don't know, my girlfriend is super sweet, but she's also very aggressively protective over me. So she adds this guy and basically tells him that he needs to leave me alone. Unfortunately, this enraged Adam, who responded with saying really, really awful things to her. Naturally, I defended my girlfriend and blocked Adam. Everything was cool for like a week until another account added me. This guy's name was Tyler, and he was super chill. He was super nice to me and respected my relationship with my girlfriend. As the days go by, I start to notice that Tyler's vocabulary was very similar to Adam's. I wasn't sure about it, so I didn't make any assumptions that it was him. So I gave Tyler's snap to my girlfriend, who adds him to investigate. As soon as she adds Tyler's snap, Tyler flips out on her, which confirmed that it was Adam. As soon as this realization was made, I blocked him again. From there, everything goes quiet from Adam for about a month. So I live in the suburbs of Chicago, and both my girlfriend and I live down the street from each other. So naturally we do see each other a lot, and both of our families are really good friends. On top of that, our families would also house sit or even pet sit for each other. Anyway, a month goes by until I get a letter with no name or address on it, just my name on the front. I open it, and to my shock and horror, it's basically a love letter from Adam. The premise of the letter was basically saying that he loves me and he wants me to run off with him. The letter also takes a very sexual turn halfway through, with him describing what he wants me to do with him and him to do to me. At this point, two horrifying realizations hit me. One is that he knows my address, and two, he dropped that letter off himself, meaning that he is in my town. I immediately call my girlfriend, who is equally as shocked as I am, and after consulting with my parents, we decided to call the police. Unfortunately, since I had blocked as well as removed Adam's social media information, and that the letter had no return address, there was nothing we could do about it. Days after days, letters would keep appearing in my mailbox until they also started appearing in my girlfriend's mailbox as well. Her letters were far worse than mine. Adam wrote of how much he hated her and how he wanted to hurt her. He also stated many times many of the ways that he would inflict pain onto her until she broke up with me. Like me, she took this to the police, and again, they couldn't do anything. My girlfriend's family had plans to go to Hawaii for vacation, and I was to house sit for them. The first days went fine, until one of the last nights of the week. As per usual, I was over at their house, watching TV on the couch, when the power went out. Mind you, it was around 1 a.m., and it was pitch black when those lights went out. The next few seconds were silent when I heard a window smash from the office. To understand this more, let me give you a layout of the house. When you entered into the front door, to your left was the living room. Straight ahead was both the kitchen and the stairs, and to the right was the office and the dining room. On the upstairs level, as soon as you reached the top of the stairs, a bathroom was straight ahead, and my girlfriend's room was on the right, and the other bedrooms were on the left. Immediately, I shot up and grabbed a kitchen knife and ran upstairs and hid while I called the cops. I quickly got into my girlfriend's room and slipped into the closet. As soon as I was able to contact the operator, I heard the pounding of the intruder running up the steps. Thankfully, I had relayed all the information to the officer in time, who then stayed on the phone as we both remained quiet. The intruder took a left when he reached the top of the stairs, which gave me more time for the cops to arrive, and for me to get ready just in case I needed to defend myself. A few minutes go by and I heard the intruder start walking towards my girlfriend's room. In the only few precious seconds I had, I slipped out of the closet and positioned myself next to the door. As soon as he opened the door and started to enter the room, I took the kitchen knife and drove it into his shoulder. A young man screamed in pain as I heard a heavy metallic object make a large thud as it hit the ground. From there, I bolted out of the house, where I met my 4 squad cars and cops with their guns raised. I threw my hands up, shouting that he was upstairs in the right room. A few minutes go by and the intruder was dragged out, still screaming in pain. When the siren lights flooded the street, I got a glimpse of his face. And I was informed later by an officer that the metallic thud was made by him dropping a handgun. Adam was from Texas and had traveled up to my state to be with me. He had rented a room at a local motel and would put letters in both my girlfriend's and my mailbox daily. He would do this in the early hours in the morning, which was confirmed by the security footage of the motel he was staying at. That night, Adam had plans to kill my girlfriend and her family, just so I would choose to be with him. He managed to pry open the power box to the switch and switch off the power to her house along with the neighboring houses. He broke in with the intent of her being there. Well, unfortunately for him, she was enjoying a tropical vacation. To be honest, I have no idea how this outcome would be different if they did not go on vacation. And I am grateful that I still have my girlfriend as well as her family alive. So please, Adam, stay away from my girlfriend and me. So, for a little background here, I played the drums for 11 years of my life and I've gotten pretty decent at marching percussion and playing the drum set. I'm currently a college student who obviously needs money, so I took up 2 jobs that had to do with teaching drumming to kids. The first job, which I only recently left because of the pandemic, was an amazing opportunity at a school district to be a part-time music teacher. I honestly loved the job. This story has to do with the other music job which I took up as a non-profit. That, I don't want to name for legal reasons, that resides in my town. So, at this nonprofit there are two main coordinators in charge who happen to be an older married couple. The husband was in charge of the science and art side of the facility, while his wife, Bernice, was in charge of the music side of the facility. So she was in all aspects, my boss and also one of the piano teachers. I taught drum sets with a high school friend of mine named Jay. There was a guitar teacher who I was also friends with named Ray, and an elderly piano teacher named Mari. So that was the entire music department at the facility. I started the job when their last drum teacher suddenly left to pursue his dream career in the Bay Area. Bernice really needed me to start immediately, so I did. But during my interview, she had been very nice and cordial, but I sometimes noticed how rude she was to the other employees. Most of the other people working in the science side were merely high school students, and one of them may forget a small thing like forgetting to put a screwdriver back where it belonged, and she would degrade them. Degrade them. She would say things like, "How will you keep a job if you can't do simple things like this? Are you even using your brain? I should fire you for this kind of incompetency, but I won't because I'm a nice person." Nice person. Okay. I would see this kind of stuff go down, but I would never say anything because honestly, I just didn't think it was my business, and I didn't want to get yelled at either. I was also briefly explained that she also revealed that she was very religious and homophobic, and I was very obviously not straight. I tried to ignore these outbursts, but they started to get to me. I would try to talk to those kids afterward and reassure them that they could only do their best and that should be good enough. A few months into the job, I even tried to talk to her about it, and that was a huge mistake. I said that maybe she shouldn't be so hard on them since they were just kids. She had been cheerful and smiling, but once I finished that sentence, she got quiet. Her expression went blank, and her eyes turned cold. If looks could kill, I'm pretty sure I would be very dead. After a few seconds of silence, she suddenly yelled, "Mind your business. Those ungrateful brats need to learn their place, and so do you." I was absolutely stunned. I had no words. I had never been yelled at like that by any boss in any of my jobs, so it just really shook me. I just sat there with what I'm guessing was a shocked look. She then immediately went back to smiling and simply said, "I think you have a lesson with little Timmy in 5 minutes, don't you? Better get ready for it." She said it with a freaking smile on her face. Like, what the hell? I just got up and got ready for my next lesson. After that, I began to get yelled at by her pretty much every week for the smallest thing. Maybe if I finished a lesson a minute early or I forgot to fill in my timesheet right away. I endured months of this until I finally had enough. I lasted a year and a half until I finally quit. She encouraged me to call or text any time, which seemed so odd, considering she had just yelled at me every day for the last week I worked. I thanked her so much for the opportunity she gave me and left without incident. Or, at least I thought it was without incident. Before I left my position, I recommended to a parent to have their kid get lessons from a friend of mine because her son was an absolute musical prodigy who needed more intense training to grow as a musician. She thanked me and I connected them, and he is still going to get lessons with my friend. And I get occasional videos of his process, and I'm just so proud of him. He's only 10 and he can outplay me easily on the drum set. Pretty impressive. However, the mother of the student accidentally told Bernice the reason why her son was leaving to the non-profit and said that I had recommended it. That happened in the middle of January 2020. By the end of January, my email inbox had been flooded with emails from Bernice. They ranged from her needing me to come back to sign a form to obviously being mad about recommending the student leave the nonprofit. Every day, there were at least 10 emails, and on bad days, there were upwards of 30. I blocked her email 2 weeks because I knew it just wasn't going to stop, and I finally had some relief. Then I noticed she tried to friend me on Facebook and then followed me on Instagram. When I blocked those again, it was her husband's accounts that tried. I then blocked those as well. She tried it again and used the non-profit's social media pages to follow me. I had no idea why she was being so persistent, and I didn't know what to do. It seemed to calm down, so I thought she gave up a few weeks later. But I had random accounts trying to follow me on all my social media. I asked my friends that I had worked with if they could see her doing this while she was in the office. So Jay and Ray went to the office, and she had a lesson and looked to her monitor, and there were a bunch of tabs open. She sent snaps of what they found, and all these tabs were different faceless accounts on Facebook and Instagram that had been attempting to follow me. They closed them all out, and they feigned ignorance and said that they had been looking for sheet music and the tabs had accidentally closed by themselves. They said she looked super pissed, but then suddenly asked them if they had me on social media, and they just said they didn't know and tried to walk out. But before they could walk out, she asked them if they could tell her what lies I had told them, and they said she didn't know what she was talking about. She got even more pissed and yelled at them to stop acting stupid and to tell the truth, and they again told her I never said anything about her or the non-profit. She suddenly went on a whole tangent about how I was going to steal all the students and the non-profit would have to be shut down. From here, she never spoke to them again about it. But after this, I did notice I started to see her whenever I went to Walmart in town or to get groceries and such. I'm telling you, 8 out of 10 times I would go, she would be there. She never spoke a word to me, but she always just kind of lurked. One day, my younger sister said Bernice spoke to her while she was at the McDonald's inside the Walmart, and she went after school to grab some food with friends. Luckily, my sister knew who she was, and she knew not to give any information to her when she asked if she was my sister and how I was doing. My sister ignored her. My sister kindly said that she didn't know who she was and she didn't feel comfortable talking to her, and then proceeded to ignore her. Bernice just smiled and then left my sister, but my sister called me shortly afterwards to ask to be picked up from the Walmart because she rightfully felt super uncomfortable. I sped over from my college and got there within 15 minutes, and she ran out and got in my car and we sped off. As soon as I left the parking lot, I could see Bernice's car had pulled out of a parking space and was following us. I knew it was her car because I had seen it every time I went to work, and it had a logo for the nonprofits on the side of it, so it was hard to miss. I realized that she had been waiting in that parking space to either follow my sister back to the school, or in this case, follow me who had picked her up. I drive a bright red Honda Civic, so it's pretty easy to see even from a distance. So I knew I had to lose this crazy lady because I had no idea what her intentions were. So I decided to get on some of the side streets and drive all kinds of random ways through our town, and then I even got on the highway that takes you to the closest major city, and then got off a random country road. It was insane because this woman was so persistent as hell. She caught up and kept up with me until I got to the highway. Once I got on, I was easily doing 80 to 90 and weaving in and out of traffic to lose her, and eventually I did. I then parked in between some orchards off one of the country roads I took. My sister had been on the phone with our mom the entire time, who then proceeded to let our own police know. We got on the phone with them and they told us to drive to the police station, and there would be someone waiting to help us. So I made my way back to town while consistently checking my mirrors for Bernice. We made it and I gave a statement, and they made a report and then asked me to describe the car. I said it was a burgundy SUV with a nonprofit's logo on the side. They said it should be easy to find, and they went straight to the nonprofit to find her. Sadly, Bernice had an alibi waiting when they got there. She showed them the security footage of the front of the facility, and the burgundy SUV with the logo had been sitting in its spot since she opened, so there was no way she could have followed me. according to the police. They said there was nothing they could do and it was left at that. But I knew what I had seen. It was messing with my mind for days until I finally got my answer on how the hell she even pulled off that stunt. Jay informed me 2 weeks later that Bernice had announced that they had bought an identical SUV with the logo and everything for the nonprofit. I was stunned. It was the same make, same model, same color of the SUV. Even the license plates were almost identical, only having two differences differ from the original SUV's plate. Bernice had played the cops into thinking I just had an overactive imagination. She knew exactly what she was doing. I was just so confused at this point. Eventually, I emailed her and told her to stay away from my family because I was never going to talk to her again, and clarified that I had no intention of taking any students from her. Hell, I'm not even a goddamn music major, so why would I even want to continue doing anything music oriented? Her reply was almost instantaneous. Sounds good, dear. You take care now, and be sure to tell your sister that I said hi. Bernice, I really hope we never meet again. When I was 12 years old, I got an unusual opportunity. I was able to be involved in a study abroad program where I would live in England for several months. The program was run through my middle school, and I went over to England with a group of around 15 other 12-year-olds. Before we went to the homes we would be living in for the next few months, we ended up staying in London for about a week to do some sightseeing. When we got there, we were staying in a small hostel downtown, and my school had essentially rented out the entire hostel for the kids and for the adults that were chaperoning the trip. If I remember correctly, there were 2 adults with us. Every day we would have a scheduled activity, and then we would have a significant amount of free time where we were allowed to explore the city as a group with just the kids and no adults. The second day we were there, my friends and I were out together, and we ended up stopping to look at some kiosks that had souvenirs. We were about a block from our hostel. I was around the backside of the kiosk. It looked like I was alone, and I feel someone grab my arm. I turn around to see a middle-aged man, most likely homeless. He looks to me and says, "Hello there, pretty little girl," in the creepiest voice I had ever heard. I immediately darted around the other side of the kiosk and back to my friends. Before I could even tell them what happened, he came around and got super close to me and said, "You can run, you can hide, but I will find you." And then he walked away. I immediately grabbed my friend and started pulling her back towards the direction of the hostel. I was crying, and we got back there and told our chaperones what happened. They essentially just brushed it off and didn't do a thing. Every day we were in London from when on, I would see him through one to three times a day when we were out. He would never get close and never say anything, and he would always be smiling while watching me. Every time I would see him, I would point him out to either one of the chaperones or another kid in our group. On the last day we were there, we were getting ready to leave, and we were catching a train from London to Leeds. While we were waiting at the train platform, I hear, "Bye, little girl. I will see you soon." And I turned around, and sure enough, he is there. He quickly leaves, and again, no one in my group really does anything, except for the other kids, because they were all completely freaked out. I never saw him again after seeing him on the train platform, but I still remember his voice. Every time I think of it, I get a shiver down my spine. And I think about how close to danger I was. So to the man that stalked me, let's not meet.